listen to a young girl who was saying that the African community here is totally very angry. Like,
was the so-called Niger Delta of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He went to several schools to make your academic genesis of Government College to Delhi and
go gather, destroy their food. Make switch camp. That other camp.
Good evening, you're welcome to the program Green Planet.
Good day and welcome to People, Places and Events. I am Arrey Ivo and I shall be talking about some of the things we've been doing at the African Center for Community and Development. We have been able to carry out interviews of diverse stakeholders of community, including women, youth, civil society organizations, in order to map out their strategies for replication and for teaching, in order that we can valorize as well as vulgarize these practices to other stakeholders who need them and that are vulnerable and marginal in society. Hello, what's your name?
I'm Irene Zikum.
And you represent which organization?
Women Connect Cameroon.
Okay, and thank you very much for talking to the African Center for Community and Development. What does your organization do?
Our organization works with women. You know, as a newly created organization, we need to work with women in the agricultural sector, medical section. That is what we want to do.
Okay. Good day.
Good day, sir.
What is your name?
I'm called Angeka.
And you represent which organization?
I'm representing the APWC, that's the Association for the Protection of Women and Children's Rights.
Okay. And what are the challenges that your organization faces, for instance?
Challenges, you know, when we always talk about human rights, the challenges we face, so most of the times people see it as impossible for human rights to be fully respected. So those are some of the challenges, like acceptance in the society and all that. And also we face some financial difficulties, challenges too, as normal organizations in Africa. And we have challenges to like finding personnel.
What's your name, ma'am? Thank you very much for talking to the African Center for Community and Development. You represent which organization?
Water, Health and Sustainable Development.
And what does your organization do?
We provide clean, the main function is to provide clean, affordable and potable water for rural and urban area in Southwest.
Good day. What's your name, ma'am?
Matilda.
And you represent which organization?
IEC Cameroon, Youth Empowerment Center.
And what does IEC do?
IEC is out for humanitarian activities, health, agriculture, and other activities.
Okay. And what are the problems or the challenges that you face as an organization?
Well, as an organization based in Africa, most especially in Cameroon, we face problems like community problems, that is reaching out to people, because most people are unaware of how organizations in Cameroon work. We also face financial problems.
We have also been documenting our own agricultural activities and research, including activities in snail farming, in the production of alternative feed mechanisms for fowls. And just away from the free-range chicks, we have snails thriving in our snail pen at the African Center for Community and Development. They are very big snails, and we are trying to repair today. The door is been affected by the elements, and therefore we need to make sure that there isn't any possibility of escape from within by placing some wood to block possible escapists. And the snake pen is also a source of worms for the birds. As you see, we give them the delicacy as worms are abound from within. Identify a mechanism to supplement the diet of the fowls that we keep at the African Center for Community and Development. Our intention is to grow them as free-range fowls that have organic food to feed on. And we've identified that fallen plantain stones or the plantain tree which is about to rot is a viable option as food for the birds. They have the opportunity to have carbohydrates to the stump, as well as to eat on some ants and insects that can be found. There is one of the stumps that have already been eaten, and we've now placed new ones that we shall now feed on happily. Free-range chicken farming is what should be encouraged in Africa, as it is by extension a part of village poultry. So Valentine, what is the advantage of giving them these plantain stones?
It gives them carbohydrates, and the advantage that people consider as waste. So yeah, you can feed your fowls. You can eat this one for about a period of 1 week. Gradually, as it's getting fermented, they're eating it. It also makes them to be healthy. It's like medicinal to them.
So you realize that you can strategize with some few stones, as Valentine has said, by placing them here. They will be feeding on it gradually and gradually until it might become something like that. This one is basically eating. So will be this. And they are supplemented with some grains as well. We are sure that they are picking on the ground, they are feeding on the stones, and everything becomes a holistic and a complete package. African Center for Community and Development is into agricultural systems that benefit youths and women. It is into agroecology and conservation at its Green Cradle project. The intention is to valorize and to improve on the capacities of women and youths in order that tested sustainable practices for agriculture and development are replicated in societies. Agroecology is very important for Africa, as it has been proven that Africa has a landscape of farmers who are affected by the negative aspects of genetically modified organisms, as well as subsidies that affect their capacity to compete globally or in the international market systems.
The majority of poor people in Africa are still rural people, and many of them engaged in agriculture. So do you think that the higher food prices may actually be a blessing for them?
If the laws of supply and demand were to work effectively, yes, and if we had an open trading system and they were able, but I think over the medium to longer term it will be a blessing for them. But for the moment, because of the high food prices, they're going to get less food aid, as the World Food Programme has made clear. They can't afford to import food at these high prices. So in the short term, it's a real problem. But in the longer term, I think it's an opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Is there a message here for the governments and people of the North, of the rich world?
I think they should, first of all, help Africa strengthen its agriculture. They should not only give them food aid, but really teach them how to cultivate and harvest and work with them on that basis. The other thing I would suggest is that there should be a fair trading system, and we need to look at the subsidies that European and American farmers get, which often places the African farmer at a great disadvantage. Already, they are really living on the edge. The production of African farmer per hectare is a quarter of the world's average. And how do they then compete with all these rich farmers who, on top of it, get these huge subsidies?
Although if you remove the subsidies now, presumably that would push food prices even higher.
Well, it depends on how you do it. There are a couple of other factors. I mean, in Europe today, farmers are paid not to plant on certain parts of their land. There's a debate going on now if these restrictions should not be lifted, given the market situation as it is now. You have a similar situation in the US, and of course this obviously will have to be done over time. You don't want the market to collapse and discourage farmers, which will then repeat the shortages we have today. So it has to be moderated and done over a period.
Nima Bassi, you're chair of Friends of the Earth International, which has got groups all the way around the world. This report, which has just come out, is saying that GM, genetically modified food technologies, are a complete failure in developing countries. What is going on?
Indeed, we believe that the genetic engineering has not delivered on any of the promises anywhere in the world, both in the developed world and the developing countries. Over the years, we keep hearing the same stories, that GM crops produce higher yields, that they require less pesticides because the seeds themselves are pesticides. They require less herbicides, but all these have not played out at all.
But we hear from the Monsantos of this world and the other big American and European countries that GM crops are actually doing very well, and that they've never been more successful, and more farmers, so especially poor farmers, they tell us, are now adopting them. Are you saying that this is wrong?
It's completely wrong. They keep on fabricating the same false stories year after year. I mean, we've made reports, Friends of the International and other groups have made reports that have clearly shown the GM crops are not really spreading into new territories. They're just expanding farms in the same old places where they've been growing them. And in fact, the negative impacts of genetically engineered crops are getting more visible. Poor farmers are abandoning the crops. The example that the biotech industry have been using to show that small-scale farmers are embracing GMOs, one of the best examples is BT cotton growing in Makatini flats in South Africa. Now, when they started out, there were quite a few farmers, but right now, most of these farmers have abandoned cultivating BT cotton in South Africa. The small-scale farmers have found that this is no way to go.
Are you saying that this technology is not suited to small farmers, only to very big farmers?
By very nature of the whole thing, it's not suitable for mixed cropping. It's not suitable for small-scale farming. GMOs are only suitable for monocultures because they depend on intensive use of chemicals and herbicides. Everything else must go. If you try it on small scale, it just doesn't work. Even at the large scale, they don't yield better than conventional crops. And
we're reading about in America and elsewhere in China that the crops are producing super pests and super weeds and things like that. Is that what you're finding?
Yeah, this is what has been happening, because they tell us we are going to use less pesticide, less herbicides, but the seeds, the pests are resisting. We're having super bugs, super pests, and then the weeds are getting more resistant to this Roundup chemicals. So you're having super weeds. So every year, farmers have to use more quantities of chemicals, more intense concentrations of these chemicals, and it's just damaging to the environment. It's not delivering on any promise at all.
Your report links very clearly in the Indian section to the GM crops and farmer suicides. What is happening here?
Well, you see, the case in India should be a warning signal for everybody around the world that GM crops don't benefit anyone except the biotech industry. Now, a lot of the farmers in India have had to depend, because naturally, if you use GM crops, you have to depend on credits, you have to depend on chemicals, and because the yields don't pay back the investment, these farmers are pushed into debt, and some of them have to drink the chemicals that they were using to cultivate the crops and to commit suicide. So this is what is going on.
One of the other points you make is that the promises which the companies made 20-odd years ago when they started this was that there would be very many different sorts of crops. In fact, there's only 3 or 4. Is that is that the nature of the technology, or is it just that the companies were never telling the truth?
I think the companies know that they've not been telling the whole truth. They have to concentrate on a few crops and insist that they spread this around the world. And in fact, by the nature of the industry, they're eroding the biodiversity of the world, destroying seeds, and concentrating on the staple crops. But right now, they're pushing into Africa, especially trying to take up staple crops like cassava, like cowpea. And the new approach is to tell the people, well, we can produce crops that are more nutritious. But the truth is that, for example, if you have to eat a lot of cassava to have enhanced levels of vitamin A, you may need to eat tons of it every day. And people don't eat this food this way.
It seems to us that the front line, if you like, of the GM companies is now in Africa, and that's where they're concentrating all their marketing and their technology. What are you finding in Africa? Is there resistance to the crops?
I think the GM industry is pushing into Africa because it's more or less the last frontier they've not been able to penetrate. And this is because naturally African agriculture is small-scale based for family farming, and is a system of seed savings and seed sharing over the years. The industry does not permit sharing of seeds, because once they contaminate the seeds and erode the biodiversity, because of the patent they have on their seeds, farmers would have to be forced to buy seeds every year, and African farmers don't operate that way. It's not just suitable. And so they're doing all they can to open up the African market by weakening the biosafety laws and erecting structures that will allow them to push in. And unfortunately, fortunately, the farmers are resisting this because there are better ways of cultivating and doing things. And we've seen across the continent that agroecological means.
Tell me now, this is one of the alternatives to genetic engineering. What exactly is agroecology?
This is cultivating crops in a way that is sustainable, using natural means, going organic, using natural inputs, not dependent on chemical inputs, You know, this is a system that farmers have developed over the centuries, selecting the best seeds, cross breeding, and, you know, developing the best that suits the environment. And we've seen environments that have been impacted adversely by weather or by climate recovering by the use of these seeds.
But the GM companies would argue that this approach is never going to feed the burgeoning populations of Africa or Asia or whatever. They say there is no alternative. We have to go down this high-tech route, and that means, you know, land grabs, and it means large enterprises. And this agroecology thing is a lovely idea, but it's just not going to be efficient enough. How would you respond to that?
I think it's the myth that the biotech industry has been pushing for many years now, that large-scale industrial farming will feed the world. But this has been exposed as a lie.
The question of global trade is very important in the sense that it is an instrument of development. However, in the past 10 years, I would say 11 years, since 1995, when the World Trade Organization came into place, the policy space, which is very important for developing countries to maintain so that they have flexibility around how to maneuver the trade agreements in such a way that they work in favor of them. That has failed and collapsed terribly, and this is what signifies the recent talks in July that completely collapsed. The biggest sticking point has been around agriculture, in the sense that farmers in the European Union and the USA are subsidized. This is very important, while farmers in Africa and the global south are not subsidized. This really creates distorted trade. In other words, somebody else is given extra money to plant their seed and grow them. Whether the seed is good or fails or whatever, they still get paid to grow and their seeds and to farm. But what's even worse is that they're paid to grow surplus food, more than they need, which means that they need markets, obviously, to sell their goods. So because they're subsidized, they're able to compete on the global market at much lower prices. So what happens is they take their goods and they actually dump them on the African market. So say, for example, in South Africa, where we produce tomatoes and deciduous fruits and we can them. In the last 7 years, in the tomato canning industry in particular, because European tomatoes have been dumped on the South African market, we've completely wiped out the tomato canning industry. The effect has been that it's women who work in these farms who do the canning. They've lost jobs. Not only have they lost jobs, but they have not been able to maintain their bonds to pay for their homes. They've not been able to pay their school fees. They've not been able to keep their health insurance up so that their families have access to health care. So it's a domino effect in terms of the destruction of the social fabric. The same thing is happening to cotton farmers in Benin, cotton farmers in Mali, anywhere where people are growing crops to sustain themselves. What the agreement in agriculture has done, in particular the subsidies that go with the agreement in agriculture, has completely distorted the way in which trade is done and completely deindustrializing that sector. In other words, people, I mean, if you can't grow and make a profit and you're actually you're producing more than you can get money back for, it's not worth it. I mean, you're just basically farming for free and giving your goods away because you're not able to recoup your costs. You're not able to make a profit on that as well. So basically, very significant farms that employ a number of women have actually just died out, leaving huge numbers of women unemployed, and that in and of itself is it creates new challenges for poverty, new challenges for HIV/AIDS as well, because if you're poor and you're not able to eat properly, you'll die of HIV/AIDS. You know, so these are the serious challenges that we are faced with as a country.
We have been at the focus of community training, capacity building, in the organization of workshops, including fighting poverty and engaging in conservation through sounds, sustainable strategies and practices for development, We've carried out activities including outreach into orphans, and we have been able to carry other humanitarian activities including charity, including the pork outreach, in which we sold pork that was farmed by the African Center for Community and Development below market price, in order that people who were living below the poverty line in marginal communities could access proteins. We have been able to do that with plantains as well, in the plantain outreach. So this is plantains that we've harvested from the Green Cradle project of the African Center for Community and Development. We're about to carry the plantains to the market. It's our own way of trying to improve on food security in this part of Cameroon and Africa. We hope that it's going to get down to vulnerable subpopulations, and it's going to be our contribution from the center as well. So we're now to select the plantains so that we know the kind of price that we're going to give in the market, and to also make sure that it is affordable to the average user. So we have a full car, and this is the man who's going to help us to transport the thing to the market.
You are not rich.
Yeah. Yes. So this is banana that we want to give pigs in the piggery of the African Center for Community and Development, and this is to supplement their meal. The banana was harvested from the Green Cradle project of the African Center for Community and Development, and we are also hoping to improve and access to proteins through pigs, and therefore we are trying to use those alternative mechanisms of feeding pigs that are not costly, organic, and maybe difficult for the farmer, like industrial feed. Across is the pepper nursery of the African Center for Community and Development, where we planted pepper, and we are transferring seedlings now to the Green Cradle project, the agroforestry initiative and conservation farm of the African Center for Community and Development. So here with me is Israel, who is the pig hen at the center. We are going to be taking some banana and to feed some pigs with. Banana can be eaten raw and boiled. As pigs are omnivores, it is a very important aspect of their diet. Having knowledge of these kind of systems of agriculture is vital in the 21st century, especially as the world is expected to have an increase in population of about 9 billion by 2050. So you see, they love the banana, and they are very expectant to eat banana. Helps to make them healthy We are in the Green Cradle project and work is going on. We are leaving the nature here, the ecosystem, slight modifications as part of conservation of the species that we have here in this part of Africa. We are hoping that we'll grow food here, maintain the biodiversity here, attract tourists here as well to see what nature has given us and blessed us in this part of the world, which is around the tropical rainforest of the Mount Fako area of Cameroon. And I hope that you will be able to see different species, shrubs, trees, and probably some caterpillars, insects, and so on that make up the wonderful nature here. And your tour is going to be very important in the Green Cradle. So you see, workers are trying to harvest corn at the Green Cradle project, and they're trying to stuff it into bags. From bags, we're going to carry it to the car. Supporting the African Center for Community and Development should be the imperative of development management, as it is working very hard to empower diverse stakeholders in Cameroon and sub-Saharan Africa. It is also opening up its resources for partnerships in agriculture, including livestock keeping and fisheries. It is also accepting ventures seeking to invade in Cameroon and the continent. Hello. Hello. What is your name?
My name is Dilanya Shing.
Okay, and you are working here in this project. Do you like agriculture?
Yeah, I love agriculture.
Let me know the man.
Okay. I wish you good luck.
Thank you.
Hello.
My name is Michael Elias.
Okay. And you love the project?
Yeah, I really love agriculture.
Okay. Have a nice day and thanks for working in the project. Hello. Yeah. What's your name?
My name is Mutina Johnson.
Okay. And how is it going on here?
No, it's going very well. It's moving.
Okay. Congrats.
Thank you.
Hello.
My name is Echo Dennis.
Okay, thank you very much for working this project. How is it going?
No, it's working very nice, and I'm very happy.
Okay.
Manyok.
Hello. What is your name?
My name is Ayong Joseph.
Ayong, thank you for working in this project. How is it going?
It's moving well.
Congrats. And of course, Mr. Moise.
Ouais, je me nomme Ayouk Moses Baye. Je suis très fier. Je travaille dans ce projet. Parce que c'est qu'avec ce projet, demain, les enfants deviendront quelque chose. Merci.
Merci. Hi.
I'm Ndoa Johnson, because we are having to take it back home to go and sell and make some little money for the project.
Congrats and thank you very much for working in this project. We have in those bags cassava and we have corn. And so these are the people who are behind this work. Hello, Sunday. Yeah, how is it?
Very nice.
All right, congrats. We are opening a Green Cradle project, which is land that we have allocated for agricultural and touristic activities to international stakeholders that are willing to come and to partner. We are opening this land for them to be able to create farms of their own with us in partnership, that we can be able to supplement the diets of people and to train local stakeholders on particular skill sets. We can teach them to say we open a snail farm on snail farming, if we open a tomato farm on tomato farming, if we get into other aspects of vegetable farming, which we have already done and have carried out tested practices, we will be able to now translate all these activities into a vocational training center. And also, this can be having a community radio in which we sell out this information to the various stakeholders. Mind you, radio is still very important, and mobile radio is even getting more important in Africa, where the average person and poverty-stricken communities cut off from urban centers still depend on radios. So we are hoping that we will be able to establish these mechanisms of work and international stakeholders will be able to learn from the practices that we have done, including how to nurse cocoa, including how to feed fowls free range, including how to carry out pig farming, how to vaccinate them, how to carry out goat farming. We hope that we'll be able to valorize and to spread out this knowledge, which is the basis of empowering people worldwide. It is hoped that international community stakeholders will also come here and to live at the F Complex Guest House in Limbe, Cameroon, where they can volunteer to work with other local organizations and to work with the African Center for Community and Development to develop its business approaches, entrepreneurial approaches to the protection of ecology and wildlife, to farming and the promotion of women and youths in agriculture, and in empowering civil society organizations, small and medium-sized enterprises, and the general public in order that we can achieve communal peace and harmony in Cameroon, Sub-Saharan Africa, and the world. Thank you very much for watching People, Places, and Events. It has been Arrey Ivo.
Thank you very much. And you just listen to a young girl who was saying that the Nigerian community here is totally very angry. Thank you very much for
of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He went to several schools, including your academic education at Government College to Delhi.
Go gather, destroy their food. Make a camp. And that other camp, you don't compensate everybody.
Generation sometimes. Today I hope we can be on the side of J.C. Clark, the poet and writer, and we shall also be very interested in his point at more dancing. With too much meaning and riches of humankind. As stories that we have just underworld, one can still find footprints of these dead lives on the pavements of our contemporary life.
Good evening, you're welcome to the program Green Planet.